or good morning. Can you hear me okay? There. Can everybody hear me okay? I'm on a lot of channels right now. So I hope you can hear me. So great. Just to let you know, I'll show you a little trader tricks of what we've been doing today, and we pretty much kicked butt. And I'll just show you on how we did it. So the first thing we did in here is, and this has been working great. So this was in the stocks room. So what's been working great? It's been working great as if the NAS is just watching the bonds. So the bonds are on their low. The ES went almost to my objective. I'm not sure it's done going down. It's acting pretty well at the moment. But if the ES goes down and the NASDAQ goes down, and here might be a head and shoulders top. So that projects, I'm just going on the width here. Now, that's not the perfect head and shoulders. There's a couple of them, but that's one of them. There's also one up here. But the thing of what I'm seeing is that I'm going on projections, but if this goes down, what is this? It's a sign of excess speculation coming out of the market with the wild NASDAQ. And then you have on the right, you have Tesla. Now, Tesla, we were bullish on because it wouldn't go down and because you got the 200 strike, but it's still gapped down. So we have seen over and over and over that Bitcoin has a delayed reaction to the NASDAQ going down, the NASDAQ or Tesla. So Bitcoin held and held and held, and then they hit it. So we were long a lot of BITI. And now I'm in a quarter of what I was in. We're long it from here. We're long it from here. So, just keep in mind, not everything is a day trade. On the other hand, this morning, I posted that if the NASDAQ got hit on the opening, with the government report, I was going to buy more BITI. And that's why I bought it here, right there. So what do you do now? Well, you probably get out a half and you hope that Bitcoin has this objective. This is the objective in Bitcoin eventually. That all the way to here. So if you want to stay in a half of a half, that's fine, and stay in a quarter of it just in case it definitely blows up. So just keep that in mind in there. And that's what I'm watching. Just so you know, on the stream I'm actually, it shows me on a camera. So, hi, everybody. So, forgot to say that. So, I don't know about everybody on the stocks room, but that was a good trade. So, there was another trade. So, when I worked, if you listen to all my classes and all that, I go on relative strength or weakness as well. So, combined with other stuff. So when I saw this getting nailed, and it's still really getting nailed, in the grand scheme of things, but when it did this and went to a new low, MongoDB wouldn't. Now, somebody on the stocks room asked me about Square, and a light bulb went off. So, what's the light bulb? And so, I'm not going to say your name, but you really helped. And that's how we were able to almost double our money in MongoDB. So, what was the thing? I look for bull and bear flags, and I also look at correlated stocks, even if they're not exactly in the same group. Block acted great, was had good earnings, it acted great. Now, why would I show MongoDB on the left? MongoDB, if you look at these charts on a 4-hour chart or daily, I bet you thought I put up the same chart. Nope, I put up block, which held support and then rallied. So I put up MongoDB because it held support and rallied. But the more important thing is that besides my theory, see on how it had all this? Besides my theory, on the right, the NASDAQ was going to a new low. And I'll put it on a 1 minute chart. There. So the NASDAQ had this right in here. That is about 10:30. On the other hand, the low in here was 10:15. The next sell-off right there. So I'll show you with a little circle. I like using these. I'm really visual. So the NASDAQ went to a new low. That's at 11 o'clock. And guess what? MongoDB was already here. So when it was here, we bought these. I did. I hope a lot of people did. It was there to do. It wasn't like a hide and sight trade. So all we did in MongoDB. Now remember, we're keeping in mind that it looks like square and that or a block, but it's SQ. So I go on square. So it looked like square on a daily chart, and square was outperforming combined with the NASDAQ in this. So just keep in mind we had more than one reason. The other thing that I used as a reason was this possible bull flag. So you're not sure. So I didn't buy stock. We bought these, and they were there to do as many as you wanted. So we bought the 205 calls at $1.80. So I first put $1.55, but it was $1.80. And just to let you know, they were at $1.80 for a while when the stock wouldn't go up. So I sold it, of course, too early. I sold them at $3, but still a good trade. So I'm hoping somebody did that. So that's one of the ones we did. So, in there. And I'm hoping the screens are clear on the free room. I can't do any better than showing this. So, but getting back to it, that's what we did in there. We used relative strength, we used a comparison chart, and we used that it was trying to form a bull flag. So that's what we did in there. What do you do now with everything else? Well, this square can be a big deal. So let me show you what we're talking about. So you got square acting great. No doubt it's acting great. If you put a 15-minute chart, it's acting great. Now comes the next part. And the next part is what other stocks look like square. We just said MongoDB did, and it worked great. So software/service, that's where I'm going with this. So on the left, I'm going to put up other software service because we still might have a chance. I'm not sure we're on the bottom yet. I just want you to know that. But just watch that 4-hour chart and watch this support. And then on the left, I'm going to put up some of the other stocks that are almost in the group. So why didn't I mess with ServiceNow? Actually, I didn't, got stopped out on like 10 shares. But it's at support. But is it at a lot of support relative to MongoDB? No. Look at all that coagulation of support. And that's why I went for that. So if you go through a bunch of them, you're not going to find that many that are at support, but that's how I tried to do it in here. And I'm telling you, you could go, I'm trying to show the easy way. And the easy way was to take that. And I think if just keep that in mind. So bonds on the low, darn right, I'm out of MongoDB. So I'm out of TLT, except I did a spread. And now I'm still in BITI, a quarter of it. So I sold more. So our average cost is like 26.30 because I bought some at 25.93 and I bought some this morning at 26.70, and that's where I am. So we did that. What else are we watching? Well, I'm watching what looks similar to Square, but on the other hand, bonds on the low. Yeah, I probably messed up MongoDB, but it's very difficult for me to get long. Doesn't mean I have to get short, which I didn't. I kept my mouth shut, but it's real hard to get long when the bonds are on their low. So the only thing I did was a TLT spread. So that's what I did. So give me 1 second. So this is the next thing to do. And it worked. It didn't work great, but it worked. So you have Tesla. We look at open interest plays. So Tesla has big open interest at 200. It pulled it down to 200 this week, and it's trying to pull it up to 200 today. But the thing is that it acted relative strength okay. This isn't that big a move for a wild stock. I usually only play this if I see a lot of touches of a trend line, like here, or if I see bull or bear flags, which I don't see. So just keep that in mind in there. I didn't do anything in Tesla, but I just wanted to show that with the open interest. The other thing, we use the ATR trailing stop a lot. This is a 1 minute chart. And we also use the VWAP, but we're not using the VWAP like everybody else uses the VWAP. So we're using the VWAP to look for relative strength and weakness. So what do I mean? If you did the VWAP right here, how many times would you have lost money? It went up on it right here, went up here, went down. I'm using it as relative strength and weakness. So if I'm looking at all the software / service or chips or whatever I'm looking at, I'm looking at that VWAP in relation to the rest of the group. So you saw Square bust above it and MongoDB with a similar chart bust above it. So that's why another reason I messed with MongoDB. Now, on the other hand, and get it up here. There's all 1 minute charts over that VWAP. If it's green, they're over it. If it's red, it's under it. I can't share the charts because it's proprietary. But the whole point in here is this will give you a quick glance of what groups are acting okay. So MongoDB decisively above it. Splunk sort of above it. HubSpot above it. And over here, I'm going to go put Square. So they're all above it. What's the only one not above it? ServiceNow. So darn it, if the bonds weren't down 106 and they were only down 20, I'd be buying the 430 calls. But I just don't trust this rally at the moment. So there's no reason you can't take profits. We made 80% in there in MongoDB. We did really well in BITI and lost tiny in TLT. So I'll do that all day. So that's fine. So the advanced decline, it has life, but it's still way down. Like I said, the biggest wild card in here is these don't seem to have reached their downside objective. Look at the bonds. Wow. So I'm just telling you that, that's pretty bad with the bonds. And if everything wants to go up with the bonds below their January 2nd low, that's fine. But I'm not falling for it. So if we go crazy and there's a massive divergence, well, then I guess I was wrong. But I mean, I go on probabilities. And the probability right now with the bonds down this much. So let me show you what we're talking about because I forgot a lot of people are new to seeing all my charts. Not nude, new. So sorry about the speech. So on the left, I'm going to put the NASDAQ. So it's had a nice rally, no doubt about it. But why did it stop there? It obviously didn't stop because of the bond market, because the bond market's on its low. So I always go in hindsight of why on earth did the NASDAQ stop there? So I'll show you a couple of things. Number one, I guess you could say that one bar, and I guess you could say right here, but that's sort of pushing it. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of lows that were violated this morning that now become resistance. So I was really going against the grain when I did MongoDB, and I hate to see where it is now, but that's the way it goes. So right now, it must have stopped because of that. It hasn't done its objective. Bitcoin hasn't done its real objective. And that's the next thing I wanted to show you was bonds on a daily chart, because this sell-off in bonds has the NASDAQ has sort of mirrored it. So I'll show you what we're talking about. It doesn't mean right now, but there you go. There and there. Now you might say, if you're new with me, well, why'd they go down last year and the markets went straight up, the equity markets? Because the first sell-off of bonds is because the economy strengthens. Yeah, it has strengthened after COVID, and the Fed was pumping in money. The problem is the second sell-off was because of inflation and the Fed against you. And that's what put the whack on the NASDAQ. So the only thing, though, now is this, and it's, I think, extremely dangerous. All right, that's January 1st, right there. January 2nd, right there. So I'm going to put a little dot, and I can try to share this as much as I can. So there's January 2nd, right there. And you'll see it's under it. So January 2nd on the equities was here. Usually they move together. In fact, you could see it right here. You had this spike in March. Now that's way back. Yeah, there you go. You had the spike in March, and you had an equity spike. You had a spike in the bonds in August. You had an equity spike. Then you had the spike here, middle of December, and you had the spike here in the middle of December. So then you had a spike in the bonds, and the equities went up. But the bonds are now undercutting while the NASDAQ is all the way up here. That's a very dangerous situation. Doesn't mean you have to play it to the short side if you don't want to. We made good money this morning. I'm thrilled about that. But there is another danger. And the first thing is we always go over overall market perspective. And that's how we know which way to lean. Doesn't mean we're right every time. I mean, now the ES is going nuts. Yeah, I don't even want to see where MongoDB is, but I got to look. Yeah, there you go. Those things are $5. I sold them at $3, but you took the relative strength ones. So just keep that in mind. But the other thing to watch in here is the NASDAQ is more sensitive to bond rates, because a lot of the stocks like ServiceNow, which I'm sure is rallying as well. Yeah. Yeah, look at that. I should have bought those 430s. They were $1.25. Well, I didn't. I think I'll have another chance. But the thing is that a lot of these stocks in the NASDAQ have high price to sales or high price to earnings. And because of that, if interest rates go up, those go down. And that's why, to see interest rates going up this much and this NASDAQ holding firm, hey, I'm just playing what I see. And MongoDB and ServiceNow were there. So that's what I did. So right now, there's another warning sign. I'm not saying to go and short the world right now, We took our profits and got out of there. But on the left, this has to hold. So this is already at January lows. Surprisingly, this is that far down, but keep in mind, it had a massive rally last year. But the NASDAQ is still up here. So something's got to give. Either the bonds have to have a massive rally or just buybacks, I guess. That's about all I can figure. Like I said, I missed ServiceNow, I made Mongo, and I'm not going to hit every one. So for the rest of the day, what am I going to do? Well, Tesla already did what I thought it would do. Bonds on the low. Probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see if any of these turn red. As you see, all of them are over their VWAP. So you had to have MongoDB go up enough to pull ServiceNow. So the first thing I want to see is if the markets have a sell-off, what hasn't gone up yet? So I want to look for the worst relative strength as long as bonds are on their low. So that's what I'm doing. So at the moment, I'm sitting on my hands at the moment. So, and let me just tell you, I don't look at market profile. I try very simplistic stuff. And all I'm doing in here is looking for relative strength and weakness when the bonds are down this much. Apple went and filled its gap. We've had this line in here on Trading View for a long time. There, this gap right there. So now it's filled the gap. So what do you do now? Well, that right there. The path of least resistance was to the gap, not because it has to fill the gap, but when it looks like garbage, that's the path of least resistance. So it stopped where it needed to stop for now. So that worked. And am I going near it anymore? No. But like I said, I try to use just charts first, then ATR trailing stop, and I mean charts and then support and resistance. So just keep that in mind in there. And so 15-minute ATR trailing stop you could use also. But I wanted to jump ahead of the game and use a 2-minute. Look at that. And then you had another bull flag. So you had a little bull flag here. That's when we got in the calls. So the first thing, is to look what is already acting well. And since Square and MongoDB had the same chart, when one of them broke, so did the other. In fact, there's your bull flag right at the ATR trailing stop. But now, all I know is we thought Tesla would go up. We thought Bitcoin would go down. And unfortunately, I thought TLT would go up, and I've been dead wrong. I did a spread in there, and I'm losing money. But I'm not long TLT anymore. I'm seeing what else I have. Now, you probably want to shield your eyes, but I don't have a lot on. Just want to make that clear. I don't have a lot on in here. Right now, this divergence is too much for me. So I'm going to look for the first stocks that get red. And I'm going to look for if there are any stocks that just acted like a wet rag. And see if they're cheap puts. So Wingstop. Wingstop already started selling off before the ES just did. How about all these suckers? Nah, they're not doing much. What looks bad? I mean, terrible. Well, let's look at home. Let's look at cat. No, I want to see some kind of either under an ATR trailing stop or I want to see a bear flag. I don't see any. Maybe AMD. The problem is, and I've warned a lot of times in this stupid stock, is you might be dead right. And what are you going to make? 20 cents. I need a lot of bang for my buck. So just to let you know. And earlier we got out of our QQQ flies, and those work great too. There, I'm back. So now what am I going to do? Well, there is no way this market's going to sustain a rally if the Dow is on its low and the bonds are on their low. And that's ugly. So just keep in mind that I am not buying anything now. I was buying on things that had relative strength. But at the time, the bond, the ZB, the 30-year bond was only down 26. It's just plummeting. So there is no way I'm going to buy anything in here. Just, I mean, for now. So is there anything to short? Not yet. I'm watching a lot of my main list on the left acting pretty well. Pretty well. Not great. I'm still short Bitcoin, and it still could go down another 500 points. So, you know, not bad. But this is also what I'm watching. You just got to respect this. The strength was for the bounce. That was it. As long as this TLT is on its lows, I'm not buying a bounce. I just want you to know that. Now, when you go over here to the ES, I think it opened your eyes wide open, that all it did was get oversold. That's all it did was get oversold. And now it's going to test that oversold resistance. And that's all it did. No more, no less. There. This looks worse. See that? That looks worse because look at all the resistance in here, all these lines I can draw. So I'm going to look for what NASDAQ stocks look bad, but I have to wait for some oversold stuff to get worked off. The 15-minute worked off its oversold really crappy, as you see. So let's see what we can mess with. There's a little bear flag in the NASDAQ. So let me see. So Stephen, the red and green, the green is over that black line. Red is under. It's just the VWAP on a 1 minute. I don't use the VWAP literally like buy if it's over it. As you see, you just get yourself shaken out. It's only to see like groups and their relative strength or weakness. That's all I'm doing. And so if I start seeing a group start turning down like deer versus cat, you know, they're not perfect. Home Depot and Lowe's are better. And if I see these start to turn down, remember, now I'm rooting for MongoDB to go down so I can get back in. But if I see this group turn up, which they did, and the chips turn up, then, you know, you could try to buy the laggard just temporarily. I still think this is a complete accident waiting to happen. So what else am I going to do? Is there anything I can just close my eyes and short? No. When I watch NVIDIA going up or holding and Microsoft holding and the software holding, it might not be time yet. And that's where I am. And like I said, when bonds are on the low, and if I look like I'm going like this or this on the stream, it's because I'm trading. or I'm scanning. So I'm looking at this. Is there anything that looks horrible? No. Probably the only thing that I've messed with is Lowe's and Home Depot. But unfortunately, those are really small moves. If I'm going to pick on one, it's going to be probably Home Depot because it has more to fall. Let's see. And I'm taking now daily charts. Because when the market's falling apart, either 4-hour or daily charts is the way to go. So there's Lowe's with earnings next week, all the way down to here. Where's Home Depot on a 4-hour? I love using correlations. Home Depot looks like dirt, but it's at a lot of support. They're both at support, but it seems like shorting rallies against the resistance is okay. Not great, but it's okay. So I'm not going to mess with either of them yet. I would rather mess with NASDAQ stocks. So let's see which ones we can mess with. Sure seems like the way to go is to short the NASDAQ. So I just shorted the QQQ, just small to show you what I'm doing. So bonds on the low, I just shorted it at 291.50. It's not a big move. My stop is just going to be like up here, like these candles. I'm just risking like 22 cents, and it's a tiny trade because of all this support. It's just showing you on that bear flag theoretically could project it down here. That's all it means. And it might not work. And that's what stops are for. So my stop's up here. And like I said, I'm trading tiny. If it's an A setup like Bitcoin, I'll trade much bigger. There. So I'm still short. So the first thing is, where do you get out? Well, probably in here. Try to make your 50 cents right in here. On the other hand, where's the NASDAQ? Where could it go? Now, NASDAQ looks like a bear flag. It's holding temporarily like a champ, or trying to, right here. But if that doesn't hold, you're talking about right here, about another 29 points. So where would that put the QQQ? Yeah, that would probably put it down here. So that's what I'm going to try for. Doesn't mean it's going to work, but that's what I'm trying for. My stops can now be like, nah, I still have a stop up here. So that's what I have. Like I said, there's a time to do the relative strength and there's a time not to. And the time not to is when the bonds are on their low. If they were on their high, that's a totally different situation. And a lot of times when it's choppy like this, now I'll just try to buy half back and make like 25 cents just to show you money management. I could be dead wrong on these things. Because already I would have been dead wrong if I tried to short anything. So I'm just trying to make 25 cents at the moment on a half. That's all. And then let the other half try to run or have a stop at entry. Let's see if I get filled. Nah, got filled. So all I did was this. All I did was short QQQ at 291.50, bought back half. Let me put this in multiple places. How important is it? I'll answer that in a minute. So let me just put that over here. I don't know where to post anything, um, but that's what I did. So I shorted QQQ right here on the break of this bear flag. I bought back half here, and now I'm going to try to run it all the way to 291. Just money management in here. That's all I'm doing. So as you see, it got under there. Let's see if I can get it down to these candles. So where's the support on the NQ? Right here, right in this zone. These big candles usually mean less support. So I haven't gotten out of the other half yet. I would like to see the NASDAQ down about another 8 points, and then I'm out. I'm out of QQQ. NVIDIA, I'm telling you right now, because the NASDAQ is so detached from reality with the bonds, I don't think NVIDIA matters. I do think that if there's a bounce, because it's holding up great, I want to buy other AI stocks like this. Yeah, AI. So I'll show you on multiple time frames, but I don't like bonds on the low, or I'd be a lot more aggressive. This still could be a bull flag. I don't like that it has earnings and it's acted great. And if that's how I look at it. It's acted great. I almost bought it at 2188 right in here, but I bought MongoDB instead. So that's where I am. So in the grand scheme of things, NVIDIA is not going to matter as much as the bond market's going to matter. As you see, the bonds had a tiny uptick and the markets went up. And that's where I am right now. So if this holds, great. Then I'll get stopped on the rest and feel great that I got out of half. So if it breaks down, then I'm thrilled I only got out of half. So you'll have to ask the moderators how to do that. So that's up to them. So for now, I haven't gotten out of the rest. We're talking about QQQ. Not yet. So I'm still going for the middle of this candle, like 291. So that's what I'm trying to do. I don't know if I'll get it, but that's what I'm trying to do. Like I said, this is a big conundrum about the bond market getting smashed and the NASDAQ not reaching its lower objective. So it might take later. So I'm probably going to get stopped on the rest at 50 and feel like a genius that I got out of half. So yeah, stopped on the other half. Actually, I made 7 cents on the other half. Now, the problem is definitely that could be where it just is a pause and then it gets nailed again. But I was just showing you an example. And with the bonds down like this, I'm thinking of getting back in. That's a problem with putting alerts. I can't just spam everybody and put like buy, sell, but I try to react pretty well. Yeah, I could get back in. Now, the next thing though is to look at the individual stocks. Are they getting killed or not rallying? Let's put it that way. So that's what I'm going to do. Did the Apple stay down? Sort of. Did Amazon stay down? As you see, they still didn't act that great. In fact, I'm watching the Russell try to form a bear flag. So you see, they're all at this VWAP. That doesn't mean I'm using the VWAP literally. As you see, you get yourself smacked in here. The one thing I am watching when it comes to this VWAP, this is just a 1 minute VWAP. It's just standard on Thinkorswim. So all you got to do is go to it, and that's all I use on a 1 minute. So this is what everybody's looking at. Is one of these indexes going to break before the other ones break? And I think that's what everybody's looking at. So I'm just using that VWAP in relation to everything else. So with the Russell holding, the ES trying to hold, you got to be real careful being short the NASDAQ here. If they start getting blasted, yeah, that could happen. Now, this is another thing about the VWAP. When something gets too far away, they have standard deviation bands. And a lot of times, if it gets too far away, it stops going down. It doesn't have, it could still go a lot lower, but temporarily it sort of snaps back, especially if the other stocks are, the other indexes are coming back. So this, you asked about Nvidia. So you saw the Nasdaq have a tiny little bounce right here. Oh, now it sure looks like a bear flag. Plus, Nvidia wouldn't go up. These wouldn't go up, but it's a little choppy now to screw around. So we made our little money and now we wait. And I hate waiting, but you just have to wait. So this is what it looks like to me. I'm looking on a different screen. I'll detach this because I want to show you something sort of interesting. At least I think it's interesting because I like everything with the market. But what I'm doing is I'm taking a different thing and I want to show you different time frames. And I want you to see this MACD. All right, see that MACD? 12 charts January 19th. Give me a second. I did the wrong one. There. So I want multiple time frames. What do you notice on here? I use this MACD that I can share. So I use that MACD 3, 10, 16 simple. You can use any oscillator you want, but you know that the hourly is oversold. So all we're doing now is trying to work off that oversold. When it gets to where the 15-minute is overbought, but the hourly is oversold, usually I'll just trade smaller. So just keep that in mind. This sure looks like a bear flag and a bear flag. I love having this 12 grid that I'm allowed to share. Doesn't have anything proprietary on it. So here you go. I don't know how to do it on the YouTube thingy, but here you go. Yeah, Mirza, did you put out easy money? That's pretty funny. All right, here's 12 futures charts on different time frames. So you saw the little bear flag and you saw the overbought 15. And all it did was rally right to that ATR trailing stop, which that's another thing. You might want that also. So let me share this. The MACD 3, 10, 16 isn't standard. Usually it goes right to like 5 or something. I don't remember. All I know is it works for me. But you see it's overbought. And there's another thing, the ATR trailing stop. So I can share that. Now, the best way to share that, though, is like this. And then for me to take an image and drag it into the chat. So let me try to do that. Well, unfortunately, I don't think Snagit's working, but let me see. Maybe we get lucky. Yeah, there we go. So now this is called volatility stop on TradingView, or it's ATR trailing stop Sylvian Vervoot. So that's the person that invented it. So let me drag and drop that to you. There. Now I use a lot of different futures charts. I mean, stock charts. I like to use 6 time frames, but when I'm looking at a downtrend and I'm looking at bonds on their low, I'm looking for short entries. I can't look for anything long. So I'd love to look for something long, but I can't do it with the bonds down this much. Now, if this starts having a mind of its own, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if I start seeing the NASDAQ, let's just take the NASDAQ on the left. and we watch it absolutely get destroyed. See how it rallied only that? The most bearish is if this MACD gets to 0 and this stays here, and then it can really crack. So the ideal, if you want to buy something, is for this to crack. And what I mean by crack is for it to go all the way to here or here, and then the bond market start to go up. So they start, the bonds have gotten killed for weeks, and this hasn't really gone down that much. So eventually this is going to have a mind of its own and maybe go to here while this then starts going up. You don't have it yet, but that's what I think. So today, I think you got to short the 15-minute and hope that it stays right here for another hour or two. So the hourly gets back to 0. And then that's extremely dangerous. And I'll look for out of the money puts to buy. And just to let you know, I am not sure. I'm not sure how to answer on YouTube. So just send them to the support, and they're posting them for me, and I can answer them. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And if I miss something, I'm sorry. But the MACD, the big deal about the MACD is not that it's my settings. It's that it's an oscillator. In fact, let me show you. So there's the MACD that works great for me. But I bet if you go to studies and put like RSI, it'll probably look the same. I've just used MACD for a long time, but you just want all you want is an oscillator. And it doesn't mean there's a degree of overbought or oversold. A lot of people ask, it's a great question. There, look at that. Same thing. All you're doing is about probability. And if this is overbought under the ATR trailing stop and the bonds are on their low, then I'm going to look for shorts. It doesn't, but that's theoretically how you do it. I mean, how I do it. So I hope that answers some questions. But you see, they look very similar. Even that little twerk down here. So as long as you have an oscillator, that's all I care about. Now, there's another thing that a lot of people, you can't tell on the MACD here, but a lot of people like to take crosses. So they'll have a slow RSI and a fast one. And I bet it would have crossed right here, which happened to do the ATR trailing stop. So I just use the MACD. That's what's worked for me. But anybody can do it. I mean, you can use any oscillator. So now you're seeing that reversal candle. Now, I'm not into a lot of candles. I like big candles. So I like big red candles or big green candles. And as you see, this only took back about half, but I'm not caring about that. It's like this is a lot of damage. And I'll look at the little wicks, but I use it to find either indecision candles, which you'll see in Apple, I'll show you, or reversal candles, both ways. Go look at Apple on a daily chart. This is a thing of beauty. It's never about the doji, it's about the follow through. And as you see, that it had 2 of them. Double doji, that excites me. Look at that. So now it's at that support you were asking about, and now it's oversold on a daily. But the problem is it looks like it's forming a bear flag. So, I might look at the 145 puts, but the problem is that expired today. There's a lot of support right there. So it might be just a slow grind down. So just keep that in mind. So I hope that helps. Now, the other thing before all heck breaks loose in the market, I wanted to show you the volatility stop in TradingView. So you go to indicators. Now, I don't have it in here right now, but I play with all kinds of volatility stops. So I have some CDC ATR trailing stop. All I do is I go to indicators, I go to community scripts, and I put an ATR and it fills it in for me. So there's the Sylvian Vervoot one. Then there's this one from 2013 that works pretty well too. And then you just click on them or favorite them and see, I have two of them in here. So that gets a little confusing. So that's why I've been using one or the other. Oh, I hope that helps. 31016, and then go into average true range. Just search for it, and you can fill it in. Yeah, I'm telling you, these correlations, I think you see a mile away why the ES stopped going down. Now, that doesn't mean to buy the world, but it does look for stocks with relative strength or weakness. So they're finally hitting QQQ. Yeah, it rallied right to resistance and then got back under it. Well, it's actually way down. It's micro, but it just got overbought on a 15. And I'm telling you right now, if this doesn't hold longer term today, then this could go down to here at the minimum, which is another 100 points. So just keep that in mind. I'd love to see the bonds rally for everyone, but if they're on their absolute low, I would be extremely careful being long anything. And I can't believe I have to go. That was a quick hour for you, and I hoped it was enlightening. And I don't know about a cup and handle. Are you talking? I'll answer this last question. On the major, no. I would not trust any cup and handle in the markets when the bonds are on their low. I would look for short ideas or short quick bounces. That's all. So take care. I'll be back in the stocks room /chart patterns mastery later in the day.